And I would like to, Tayler Hansen is here today, and if someone would mind letting him sit in. Tayler, could you give just a brief bio about yourself? And I invited Tayler here today because Taylor's an eyewitness and videoed Ashli Babbitt's murder. And I invited him here today because I wanted him to be able to talk about it.
First off, thank you guys for having me. Thank you guys for having me now that the button works. My name is Tayler Hansen. I'm an independent journalist and field reporter. I was there on January 6th to document what I believe was going to be left-wing violence due to the constant pattern of the MAGA Million March and people being violently attacked by left-wing organizations. So, I showed up to the Capitol. I was at the Ellipse, and the next thing I knew, I overheard a group. This is around, I want to say 12:20, talking about, hey, we're going to form a group. We're going to the Capitol early. We're going to march in a few minutes. So I thought that was kind of suspicious, and naturally I just followed them. And this group actually ended up being the very first group to breach the initial barriers. This group had Ray Epps in it, had Ryan Samsel in it, amongst many other people. And after those first initial barriers were actually breached, there was almost, I would say, about 10 to 15 minutes of people just gathering, in this area. And when you're behind, you couldn't even tell what was going on. You're 100 people behind, you can't tell what's going on right in front of you. So there's just this surge of people continuously pushing in. And I'm at the very front, and I can see this. Everybody's being peaceful at this moment. And that's when, as the crowd forms, people are singing the national anthem, people are being patriotic, they're doing their due rights and protesting, doing their First Amendment rights. And
Can I pause you for 1 second? Was President Trump still speaking at the Ellipse at this time?
By the time the Capitol was breached, Trump was still speaking, yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. You can continue.
And that's when the first concussion grenade flew over my head and deep into the crowd. And I noticed this hit children that were in the crowd. It hit elderly people. It hit women. And at that moment, the tone completely changed. It was a complete 180. And I've covered, all the 2020 riots. I was on the ground consistently. I have still to this day never seen a reaction of law enforcement like they did that day. I would say that they did start it. That's not a common reoccurrence from what I've seen at these riots or these protests. And that first initial grenade went by, and then it was just a barrage of grenades. I lost count. I had to put people out that were on fire. People had holes in their cheeks from rubber munitions that weren't being violent. They were standing back. And that's when the initial crowd was pushed even farther from the crowd surge. A man named Derek Vargo was pushed off the side of the ledge as he was going up the wall. And that caused almost a stampede of sorts. We went up the stairs. I recall going up the stairs with everybody, and there was these double doors that were wide open, and people were just flowing in. There was 3 cops in sight as I arrived to the top of the Capitol. They were directly to the right of me. I entered in the west wing door, and they were just standing around. They were drinking water, handing out water bottles to people, to protesters, actually. And, I remember going into the Capitol, walking down the hallway. Everybody's chanting, "Stop the steal," no violence yet. I haven't seen pretty much anything. And
except violence from
violence from the police.
Capitol
And I had
Police.
seen people fighting back, and you did have the occasional person in the crowd with a gas mask that was unidentifiable. I actually have a video of someone that I recognized from my time reporting in Portland, Oregon, that is affiliated with Antifa.
What is his
Antifa
name?
Press. I don't have her identity,
Okay.
But I recognized her, and I said, "Oh, hey, you're from Portland. I recognize you." And this is all on video, and she nods her head and then kind of brushes me off and hurry and runs. And then she's later seen setting up what seems to be a shot of one of her other friends that was there also committing violence against the police.
And let me ask you another. Okay, just a little further. You covered all the Antifa and BLM riots across the country. Was Antifa in the crowd that day? And could you speak to their involvement? Can we just go a little longer for this?
Yeah,
please?
they were unequivocally, without a doubt, in the crowd that day. You have multiple of them that are based in D.C. and Portland that all talked about it on Twitter, about how they were there and nothing is going to happen to them, essentially.
And there's evidence of this?
Yeah, there's evidence of this.
There's video evidence, social media
There's
posts?
social media posts. That's where the majority of them were posted to, was Twitter.
Were you ever questioned by the January 6th committee?
No, I actually reached out multiple occasions, more times than I can count, because I was a witness to what I would argue one of the most significant deaths in American history. I wasn't investigated by MPD, not even interviewed by their homicide team, by the Capitol Police. When the FBI talked to me, they had no interest in what happened to Ashli Babbitt. All they wanted to talk about was John Sullivan and my connection to him, which was, a very peculiar thing, and they tried to set up an in-person meeting with me. And of course, it wasn't what it was supposed to be. They were trying to entrap me. I had 2 phones hacked and basically completely wiped. And amongst that, the harassment has just been nonstop.
Thank you.